Look at us. We're here. We're going live on, what is today, Thursday? Welcome into the High Noon Rant with me, Pugs, Moran. What is the High Noon Rant? Well, so glad that you asked. Come on, get in the chat room. We got the chat room filling up. The High Noon Rant is me sitting in a chair screaming into a camera. I won't scream, I promise. I'll keep my bearings. It's hot topics, current events, headlines, trends, anything that is happening in the world today. I make a list of it all, and then I go through it at noon. And it works like this. Hey, did you hear what's going on in Japan? And then I tell you, and then we move on. We don't spend too much time on any one subject. I am not giving you, deep in the weeds details about these things. No, this is what people are talking about. This is why they're talking about it. Now we can move on. If you're so motivated to investigate further, please, there's an entire world out there. There's an entire internet that you can find more. That's not what we do here. We also don't divide. We do talk radio the way I believe talk radio is supposed to be done. Just people, just hanging out, man. I'm so tired of all the, being mean. And I had somebody ask me the other day, what does that mean? What do you mean talk radio the way talk radio should be done? And this was a radio person who asked me. So I was kind of like, really? You don't know? I believe that discourse in this country, the way we interact with one another, I believe it's been greatly affected by the influence of talk radio these past 40 years. And I think that we're all assholes because of it. Yeah, I said it. That's right. Quiet part. I just put it out loud. Yeah, I mean, I think it started with shock radio. Shock radio was fun. I was a part of it. I made money in shock radio. I was a shock jock. Not a shock jock, but I was there. And that was when we all established that, hey, the coolest guy in town calls chicks fat. So that became okay. Stuff like that. That I don't mean just specifically that, but I mean the idea of cruelty and mocking people and laughing and the normalizing of that. Shock jocks did that. Now, what did that change to? That changed over time to the second biggest influence in talk radio over the past 30, 40 years, which is the shock jock attitude of there are no boundaries as far as cruelty and meanness, but let's add politics. So now it's just, the other guy, he's the worst. So that's where we got ugly with each other. And I feel like we've gotten ugly. And that's all talk radio is. That and sports talk, which is just a bunch of meatheads yelling about stupid things, which would you be surprised to learn? I favor sports talk over the other choices. But that's what this is. This is an attempt to go back to just current events talk, man. I don't care how you voted. You don't care how I voted. We're just going to talk like people, Like I like to say, it's like two dudes at the end of their driveway hauling in their trash cans, right? They're going to talk about cool shit. They're going to talk about stuff that they both like. Doesn't matter. Nobody's going to mention the yard sign because they probably don't have them. Because these two guys in my imagination are cool. Okay, that's what we do. Now, how do I perform this? Do it as a stream of consciousness, which means no breaks, no commercials, no nothing. It's just 2 hours. Let's go live. Here's a list of things that happened. Let's see how I think about it. I don't even know most of this stuff. We perform the show in 4 segments. 4 interlocking segments that create the overall show. Quarters, we call them. First quarter, we do called Erstwhile on this day. That's really just a rehashing of the old, this day in history, but it's through my lens, so it's a little different. I cherry pick some instances throughout history that I think are interesting, and we gab about that for a few seconds. Quarter 2 is birthdays, same premise. These people are having birthdays. Are they cool? Do we like these people? That's what that is. Third quarter. Let me tell you something. We are going to have a big third quarter today because the third quarter are deads. I call it the deads. These are the people who have died on this day. And I cherry pick a few of them and the ones that are interesting. And we decide whether or not, based on our understanding of their contribution to humanity, where did they go? Is this person, hey, so-and-so died today. Do you think he went to heaven or hell? And then we break that down. We break those people down to determine where they are. A couple of hard and fast rules with the deads. All actresses go to hell. That's a personal thing. I'm sorry, but if I'm going to be steering this boat, you're going to have to allow for some personal things. Actresses are the worst. All actresses go to hell. All football coaches go to hell. Primarily college football coaches. If a college football coach died on this day, look, he did some stuff. He's going to hell. Pro football coaches almost always go to hell. But now, because of the emergence of Mike McDaniel, who might actually be a decent human being, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's too early to tell, but he might be a decent human being. with the emergence of that, I can't just say all pro football coaches go immediately to hell. The George Hallases, that variety, straight to hell. Those guys. But we got a big Q3 today. The Deads. Today is not a day to be super famous because a lot of them die on this day. Fourth quarter, we round it out. That's the meat and potatoes of the show. The fourth quarter is essentially all of the events that are happening today, the headlines, the hot topics, the current events, that kind of stuff. Okay, also needs to be mentioned, how do we do this show? We run this show on your gratuities. That's right. It's all tips. It's all tip driven. If you're so inclined to support what we do here and you want to keep us going for another month, I would encourage you. And I would encourage you to do it now. Drop a little something there if you can in the Cash App, in the Venmo, because that's how we do this show. We've been doing it for 2.5 years. Every month we've made our line. We didn't make it last month. We didn't make it last month by a very little bit. It was so close. It was like I almost started crying. I think I told you guys, I'm like, man, I have just completely exhausted our audience. This month we're not even going to come close. I knew it was going to be bad because Christmas is always bad. But if you want to tip something, please, we certainly would appreciate it. Big tipper of the day gets to be the executive producer of the next day. We don't have an executive producer today. we didn't really have one yesterday. We haven't gotten tips, and it's Christmas, and again, and I get that, but understand the business model dictates that I have to say this. I have to evangelize. I don't know. There are some big changes coming in 2024. Some of them not of my own making, and some of them good things. Some of them I think you're going to be interested in. The nighttime show, for instance, we can make a note of that. Something's changing with the nighttime show. We'll have more on that for you later. ... The nighttime show is the Radio Misfits stream that we do at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Me and James Parker, who I got to reconnect publicly with James Parker before next week. We need to do something. We need to do something here, I think. More on that coming. ... You don't need to know. You want to know, but we have secrets. All right, let's get started here. Let me pull up the show. How are you guys doing? Let me say hi to the chat room. You guys, look at my boy Dustin. I love him. What a nice family they are. Thanksgiving shows were sponsored by the Dustin and Danielle Seeley family. They were great. Remember that back in, they were wonderful. I think I gave them like a whole week. They're not just supporters. They're actually like people that I've connected with. We traveled together. We're travel companions. Hi, April. It's my girl, April. She's here. Fast Outdoor Food. Foff. I'm just going to call you Foff. Al is in the chat room. Hi, Al. Byron is in the chat room. Rip Debbie. Which Debbie? Are you talking about Debbie Reynolds? Who we will get to. Yeah, he knows. He knows today's the day Debbie Reynolds died. And we'll talk about why that's so weird. Q3. Hold your horses. Whitney's here. Hi, Whitney. All right, folks, pull yourselves into the chat room. Let's mix it up. Let's get started, okay? It is the High Noon Rant for today's date. Today is December the 28th, year of our Lord, 2023. Did you know? I don't even know how many days are left. Well, I guess. So how many days are left? I didn't write this down. Why didn't I write this down today? Every day I go, you know how many days are left? You know what? You guys do it yourself. Were there 4 days left? So that would make this the 361st. I don't know. I don't care. I'm doing the morning show at the Freak. You guys know the Freak here in Dallas, Fort Worth. They're cool enough to let me just kind of, screw around over there for a little bit. Last week and this week, and I am scrambled. It's like if I had more than the amount of time that they've given me where I have to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and put together a radio show and all that stuff, if they'd given me more time, I would adjust to it. Because I've done mornings before. It almost killed me. Literally, it almost killed a 27-year-old Pugs. I developed like my immune system. I was crazy. I was burning the candle at both ends back then. But if I had more time, I could probably, I think 3 weeks my body would need to adjust to the new time. But it's not that. It's going to be 2 weeks, which means I'm all screwed up. Got my kid coming this weekend. That's going to be awesome. I'm going to try and get my schedule back. He doesn't need me waking up at like 3:45. And that, by the way, is true. I'm so proud of myself. What is this? Is this just old man stuff? I can now wake up. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning is a medieval time for anyone to be waking up. But I'm waking up like 15 minutes before my alarm goes off. I don't know what that's about. I think it's because I'm having fun. Maybe that's it. Being happy is important. All right, let's get started. Let's do the first part of this show. We call it quarter one. It is Erstwhile on this day. These are events that have helped shape our understanding of what this day is. Maybe give us a little edge on what to expect in the coming hours of this edition of December the 28th. I keep wanting to say January now. This is one of these brain hiccups. I hate this. Oh, I got such an embarrassing brain hiccup. Here it is. My big opportunity. The boys from the Downbeat on 97.1 The Freak are being cool enough to let me sit in, and I cannot remember to say Downbeat. I'm saying Download, which is a terrible name. It's a stupid. Downbeat's kind of cool because they're musicians and all. I get that. It's the first show of the day. Oh, that's perfect. Why am I saying download over and over? It's, folks, if I can be honest with you, it's embarrassing. Professionally, it's embarrassing. I can't believe it. All right, let's go. What happened on this day? Erstwhile on this day, let's go all the way back to 1836. South Australia and Adelaide are founded. I don't know. Hey, I'm for everything Australia. You know what I like about Australia? I like that, to me, Australia may as well be Mars because I'm never going. I'd love to go, just like Mars. It's too far. I mean, it's just too far. You know my rule about airplanes. I'll cross the Atlantic. I ain't going any further. Crossing the Atlantic, like flying to London or Dublin or something like that, that's the extent to which I can't. It's why I won't go to Hawaii. If I'm being honest, I don't want to go to Hawaii. I don't like beaches. I know. Now you're wondering, then why do you want to go to Australia? That's easy. Kangaroos. Moving on this day, also in 1836, while South Australia and Adelaide are being founded, Spain recognizes the independence of Mexico with the signing of the Santa Maria Cavatronta Treaty. Wait, I don't think I had to use the accent on treaty, right? I could have just said treaty. The Santa Maria Calatrava. Why did I say it like I'm Italian? Because I'm pandering. Cool. So what is this? This is the day that Spain went, hey, fine, Mexico, whatever. If you're going to be bitchy about it, you can have your country. That's how I choose to remember it. Hey, a big shout out to our buddy Jim. Sorry, I had to do that. Big shout out to our buddy Jeff Ballard. It's Iowa Day. That's right, because it was on this day in 1846 that Iowa is admitted as the 29th U.S. state. On this day, erstwhile in 1902, the Syracuse Athletic Club. Oh, this is stupid old-timey football. You know how I love my stupid old-timey football. Here we go. Stupid old-timey football. On this day in 1902, the Syracuse Athletic Club defeats the New York. Look at this stupid name. This was the name of a team. This was the name of a football team in New York back in 1902. The New York Philadelphians. That's crazy. What's that about? Like, you know what? Now I got to know. It's a Wikipedia link, so I have to click on the New York Philadelphians and find out why a team in New York City would call themselves the New York Philadelphians was a professional football team formed by promoter Tom O'Rourke for the World Series of Football in 1902. The event was held in New York City at Madison Square Garden. It featured 5 football teams from New York and New Jersey. The Syracuse Athletic Club, that's what we're talking about today. On this day, the Syracuse Athletic Club played the New York Philadelphians in the first indoor football game at Madison Square Garden. It says here, so the other teams that were invited to participate in this World Series of Football in 1902, they were the Syracuse Athletic Club, the Orange Athletic Club, the Knickerbocker Athletic Club. That's what the Knicks are named after. Did you know that? The Knicks are named after the New York Knickerbocker Athletic Club. The Knickerbocker Athletic Club, Warslow Athletic Club, don't know what that is, and the New York. The New York was designated and heavily favored to. I don't know what that. Apparently, there's just a team called New York. That was it. No mascots. Anyway, moving on. Stupid old football stuff. There was a team who played in one city who was named for another city. That's weird. That'd be like rooting for the Dallas Houstons. On this day in 1958, here's more old-timey stupid football stuff. On this day in 1958, the greatest game ever played. The Baltimore Colts defeat the New York Football Giants in the first ever National Football League sudden death overtime game at New York's Yankee Stadium to win the NFL championship. That was it. Greatest game ever played. You ever, I don't know. You know what I think? You know what the greatest game I ever saw was? I'll tell you the greatest game I ever saw. Greatest game I ever saw was between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs 2 years ago. Remember that playoff game where it was like just back and forth and overtime? They scored. That was amazing. It was like, which one of these quarterbacks? That, for me, is the greatest game. If I'm being honest, for me, the greatest game is the Super Bowl 20, the Chicago Bears over the Patriots, 46-10. That's the greatest game. That's my favorite game. I don't know. They say this one in 1958. Baltimore Colts. Was this Johnny Unitas versus Y.A. Tittle? I don't know. Those are just two old-timey names. I might be right. Who knows? Was Bobby Night Train Lane play? Is that the same guy? No, Bobby Lane. Isn't there a Bobby Lane and then another dude named Night Train? Who cares? Old-timey football. Moving on. Erstwhile. It's a stream of consciousness, folks. I've got on, at some level, I got to be able to put the brakes on and steer the car. On this day in 1972, the last scheduled day for induction into the military. Oh, this is a cool story. Listen to this, you guys. Okay, this is cool. So on this day in 1972, it was the last scheduled day to get inducted into the military through the selective service system. So they had ended the draft and today was the last day. And so anybody, wouldn't that suck? Like you make it through the entire draft, but on the very last day of the draft, you get sent to Nam as like the last, they always say nobody wants to be the last person to die in Vietnam. Well, this would have been possibly that group. But you see, what happened was Harry Truman died. Former President Harry Truman died, and he was lying in state on this particular day, on the day where everybody who was drafted had to report. And guess what happened? All the federal offices were closed, so nobody could report. So all of these people did not get drafted to Vietnam. The final day of selective service, all those people showed up because they're like, man, if I don't show up, I guess they're going to throw me in jail. And then the office was closed because President Harry Truman had died. So there you go. Think about it this way. How many men from that generation, how many of our parents, how many people survive, how many people shouldn't be alive? Because Harry Truman gave his life for him. On this day, let's see. Oh, is that it? Is that going to be the last one? All right, that's it, folks. We are done. Quarter one is in the books. Time now for birthdays. These are people celebrating birthdays on this day. We just look at them and decide, are they cool or not? This guy, definitely not cool. I guess I don't know, definitely not cool, but I'm just saying them because we have a rule around these parts, which is if it's a United States president, we have to at least mention him on his birthday or when he dies. So happy birthday, born on this day, a total spare president, born on this day in 1856, Woodrow Wilson. Here's why he's not the most spare. Because Woodrow Wilson is kind of fun to say. It rolls good. You remember the name Woodrow Wilson. But tell me something he did. What did he do? Did he do anything? He was born in 1856. So let's say that would make him, so he's probably early 1900s, like 1902. Was he president like around then? I would think maybe later, 1910. I don't know. I don't care. Born on this day in 1914. I care about this guy. This guy's a dude. I like to single out people from time to time and just tell you about them because they're dudes. Last time I did this, wasn't it with Curtis Mayfield the other day? All right. Well, here's another one. Here's a dude who looked out for Curtis Mayfield. Here's a dude who recognized Curtis Mayfield very early. Born on this day in 1914, Pop Staples. Pop Staples of the Staple family. The Staple family were a groundbreaking gospel group in America who then would go on to do pop, not even pop, soul, man. The Staple, I'll take you there. They've got a shit ton of songs that you hear in every movie. Mavis Staples is, of course, one of the a whole family of super musically talented people. The patriarch, born on this day in 1914, the great Pop Staples. Born on this day in 1922. How about Stan Lee? That's a guy. He's brought a lot of happiness. He died in 2018, which is weird because that's a long time ago. We're coming up on 2024. That's 6 years ago. And it doesn't seem like it was more than 6 years when we were all watching Marvel movies looking for the Alfred Hitchcockian cameo by Stan Lee. Remember Alfred Hitchcock used to do that in his movies? He would put himself in one scene just walking down. Stan Lee did that. Bus driver and Spider-Man, security guard. Whatever. Doesn't seem like he's been dead that long. Stan Lee, born on this day in 1922, died in 2018. Born on this day in 1946. Everyone's favorite pigment-challenged individual. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Edgar Winter's birthday. So Edgar and Johnny Winter were a couple of brothers. They're amazing musicians, both of them. Johnny Winter's a blues man, great blues man. They're both albinos. Is that the word? Dude, I'm in my 50s. I mean, no malice. They're pigment challenged. I don't know. They're awesome though. Johnny is probably more decorated as a guitarist, but Edgar, as a keyboard player, is the one who has the biggest hit. Everybody knows Frankenstein, right? You know the song Frankenstein by Edgar Winter? Oh, that song is so badass. It's like the greatest keyboard song. He's crazy, Edgar Winter. Scared the shit out of me as a kid. I remember seeing him on like the midnight special. I'm like, it's like Jack Frost. He was scary. He was scary because he was a hippie, but he was all white and he looked like Friesmeister. I got to be honest with you. Right then, at that point in my life, the Friesmeister from the Rudolph specials at Christmas time, he was a big player in my life, and I was quite afraid of him. Johnny Winter and Edgar Winter, they looked like they reminded me of the Friesmeister. All right, born on this day in 1950. Here's another one we're going to talk about. Here's another dude. Here's another dude that, I like to say, all these people who are famous, in the modern times, with the exception of the influencers who, I don't know, they're not being vetted, right? There was a time when all of our celebrities were vetted, so we knew they could do something, act. Now with YouTube and stuff, none of these people are vetted. I don't know if they have talent. With that said, it had long been my belief that talent was dependent a lot on connections and luck. And if you didn't have either of those two things, sometimes talent is completely squandered in a lifetime. I often say, the greatest guitar player in the world might be a plumber in Akron, Ohio. Just never got noticed. You just don't. The greatest opera singer alive might be a hairdresser in Philadelphia. But, never had the break, never got the. So that's a very real thing that I believe. And sometimes it works the other way. Sometimes you get. Let me tell you about this guy who was born on this day, because he's a dude, okay? He kind of falls into this thing. He's not very famous. He is not nearly as famous as he should be for the level of talent that he was. His name is Alex Chilton. A lot of people don't know who Alex Chilton is. They know all of his songs because he had a bunch of hits before he was 16 years old. Yeah, he was one of these child prodigies. He was the child singer of a band called the Box Tops in the 1960s. They had a crap ton of hits. The Box Tops were grown-ass men. They were grown-ass, blue-eyed soul is really what they were. They were a Memphis boogie band, a blue-eyed soul with equal parts boogie, and they were really highly regarded. Some of the best musicians in Memphis were the players in the Box Tops, and they went and they recruited this 15-year-old kid. It's a little 15-year-old kid named Alex Chilton. And the minute he joins the band, all of a sudden the Box Tops, buy me a ticket for an aeroplane, ain't got time to take a... That was a 15-year-old kid. All right. So think about that voice. Alex Chilton was incredibly, incredibly talented. He left the Box Tops because he was too talented for that. And everybody was telling him, oh my God, you got to go do this. So he formed, people who know me know that I love power pop. He formed what is known as one of the seminal power pop bands of all time, a band called Big Star. Okay. Big Star was a Memphis band, critically acclaimed. Oh my God. When Alex Chilton put out the first Big Star album, everybody was like, Big Star is the greatest band on earth. I mean, it was really quite a thing. And absolutely nobody bought it. And absolutely nobody played it. And Alex Chilton over the years kind of fell into obscurity. He would make a number of albums, some of them solo, some of them with Big Star. I think there's a documentary out about Big Star. I haven't seen it, but people, like, I have friends who know. We were into power pop, so we knew Big Star. And they're like, did you see the Big Star die? I haven't seen it. I don't even know where it is, but it was about 10 years ago, I think it came out. If you don't know who Alex Chilton is, you should, because Alex Chilton was a genius And it's like the world just didn't notice. It was like he was there. The other people in the business were, the other musicians were like, he's incredible. Alex Chilton, born on this day in 1950. Alex Chilton. The Replacements. The Replacements have one of the Replacements' biggest hit songs is called Alex Chilton. So go ahead, you can Google that. Born on this day in 1954, a woman who is super famous and very wealthy for being the best friend of somebody who's even more famous and even more wealthy. That is happy birthday to you, Oprah's best friend. I'm not even going to say her name. You don't need me to say her name. You know who I'm talking about, Oprah's best friend. She is like the Tom Arnold of female talk host. Oh, I guess she's news, right? Gayle King. I'll say Gayle King. It's her birthday. Happy birthday, Gayle King. Born on this day in 1954. Born on this day in 1954 as well with Gayle King. This is somebody who doesn't need any help being famous. He doesn't have to be anybody's best friend. Happy birthday, Denzel. See, we talked about Gayle King. I don't even have to say her name. All you got to say is it's Oprah's best friend's birthday, and everybody knows. Denzel is so 180 degrees different from that. I don't even have to say his last name. You know what I'm talking about. Denzel, I'll tell you, the first time I couldn't believe, I guess I shouldn't say I couldn't, because now that after I've seen what an amazing actor Denzel Washington is, I get it. But Denzel Washington, long before he was Denzel Washington, was one of the stars of my favorite TV show when I was little. I was a weird little kid. I liked odd TV shows that 10-year-olds shouldn't like. And at this time in my life, I was obsessed with hospital shows. I don't know why. Trapper John was a favorite of mine. But my all-time favorite hospital show, even more than ER, was a show called St. Elsewhere. I used to love St. Elsewhere. And Denzel Washington was on St. Elsewhere, a TV show. He was the first place I ever saw him. So when Denzel Washington then started doing movies, I was like, oh, cool. And anyway, Denzel Washington, certainly A-lister, one of the all-time greats, icon in Hollywood. Best Denzel Washington movie. Denzel Washington draft. I'm not prepared. I got the morning show. I didn't have time to really do a Denzel Washington draft, but I will say this. American Gangster and Training Day. I would start there, and we can build the draft from there. I think Training Day is number 1. I think American Gangster is number 2. What's the plane? What's the one where he was the drunk airplane pilot? I like that one too. That was really good. Is that just called Plane or something? Flight maybe? I don't know. I like that one. The movie that was kind of buried. That movie. People they didn't really want everybody seeing that movie because it kind of exposed the lifestyle of commercial airline pilots. People started freaking out. On this day, born on this day in 1973, Seth Meyers. I like Seth Meyers. I think Seth Meyers is good. I think Jimmy Fallon bad. Seth Meyers good. Jimmy Fallon lame. Born on this day in 1978. How about John Legend? John Legend. Can I tell you my long-standing problem with John Legend and Keith Urban? I think they're misnamed. I think that Keith Urban, who is a country singer, he should be running around with the name John Legend. That sounds more country to me. And I think that John Legend, who's a soul singer, I think John Legend should be running around with the name Keith Urban. But that's just me. Hey, they seem to be doing fine without my consult. Let's move on. Happy birthday, John Legend. He's cool. I like him. Born on this day in 1982, Cedric Benson. Oh, Cedric. Ced Ben was an amazing college football running back here for the University of Texas. Amazing. And when my Chicago Bears drafted him, I was like, awesome. Cedric Benson probably had 5 good carries in his Chicago Bears career. We traded him. He ended up in Cincinnati. Got to play in a Super Bowl. Look, I got no ill will towards Cedric Benson. He's just a busted draft pick. He was not a first-round running back in the NFL. He was in college. You can't say that they were wrong. Coming out of college, you would think he's can't miss. But then, some people get the pros. They get paid. They stop working out. They don't do study. That was always the knock on him with Chicago, that he didn't study. He just wanted to take the ball like in college and run to the opening. Offensive coordinators in the NFL don't like that. They like you to kind of stick to the plan that's practiced. Cedric Benson is dead. Cedric Benson died sadly, motorcycle accident. Him and a girl were on a motorcycle out down in Austin, slammed into the back of a truck. There you go. Cedric Benson, born on this day in 1982. Okay, that's the first two quarters in the books. It's time to move on to the third quarter. These are the deads, and I promised you a supersized deads today. Not a good day to be famous. This is a day when famous people die. We can take that when we look back on what the 28th of December means. It means famous people die. How about let's start off with Dennis Wilson. We're not even going to go all the way back. There are so many famous dead people that died in like the 1940s and stuff. No, I'm not even going to mention them. Let's just start with 1983, okay? Here we go. Dead on this day in 1983, Dennis Wilson. Drummer for the Beach Boys. That's all he was. He was the drummer for the Beach Boys. You want to know why Dennis Wilson was in the Beach Boys? Because he was the only cool Beach Boy. The rest of the Beach Boys were all kind of dorks. They were all awkward. Mike Love was kind of a D-bag. Like, he thought he was, hey, but here's the thing. Not a single one of the Beach Boys were actual Beach Boys. You know who was? Dennis. Dennis, the drummer, was the only surfer in the band. Nobody else even liked the beach, but Dennis Wilson was, and he was a brother of Brian and cousins of Mike. And I love the Beach Boys. I think the Beach Boys are an incredible band. I think the Beach Boys, once Brian Wilson spun off the planet and was like, yeah, I'm not with you guys anymore, I think the Beach Boys for much of the 70s, 80s, and 90s just became a parody, and they were milking it. They were cashing in, and why not? But when Brian Wilson was the mad genius holed up in the studio creating all of these ridiculous sounds, he's half deaf. I mean, he's doing the stuff like Beethoven. I don't know. I like them. Anyway, Dennis Wilson, he died on this day. He's the brother of Brian Wilson. He was living on a houseboat, and he was troubled in so much as he was a bit of prone to addictions and whatnot, and he was completely jacked up. And he decided to take a dive off the bow of his boat while it was moored in the marina, and it was shallow water, and he shattered his neck, and he died and drowned instantly. Dennis Wilson also famous, or notorious, I suppose we should say, for being the guy who introduced Charles Manson to the music industry. It was Dennis Wilson who met a hippie Charles Manson and started hanging out. Now, Dennis Wilson hung out with him, and this has been, well, at least this is the way they tell it in stories. Dennis Wilson hung out with Charles Manson because Charles Manson knew that Dennis Wilson was a superstar in rock and roll, and Charles Manson wanted to get into rock and roll. So Charles Manson kissed Dennis Wilson's ass, was really nice, was really helpful. And most of all, Charles Manson always had like 24 smoke show chicks around him. And so Charles Manson would be like, hey, Dennis, can I come over? And Dennis would be like, yeah, because I know you're going to have like 20 hot girls. So that was kind of the thing. Dennis Wilson, dead on this day in 1983. Dennis Wilson's absolutely in hell. He went to hell. He's a rock star. It's hard for them not to go to hell. Born on this day dead on this day in 1984. You know how I have a fetish for my filmmakers, right? I love my filmmakers. One of the big uns of all time passed away on this day. Sam Peckinpah. Sam Peckinpah. Now, who's Sam Peckinpah? I'm going to give you a couple of the movies that he made. He was active during the 60s and the 70s. But, man, I'm telling you, this dude, from Westerns to, well, here, we'll pick some of the films that you might know of Sam Peckinpah. The Wild Bunch, 1969. Straw Dogs, 1971. Junior Bonner. How about The Getaway? The Getaway. Steve McQueen and Ally McGraw. The Getaway's been remade a couple of times, but there ain't nothing as awesome as the original The Getaway with Steve McQueen from 1972. Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia. That is one of the most underrated. I don't know anybody who knows that film. Killer Elite, Convoy. The dude made Convoy. You want to talk about just riding the cultural zeitgeist or creating the zeitgeist of the moment. Convoy was a phenomenon. We all had CB radios after Convoy came out. Too bad they didn't have a line of Peckinpah Convoy endorsed CB radios. And then in 1983, his final film was The Osterman Weekend, which is another great movie. Sam Peckinpah, he's one of the real dudes of Hollywood. Moving on, who else died on this day? I keep talking about big stars. Now, this is not a big star to us, but to our grandparents and maybe your moms or dads, this is a major star. Dead on this day in 1999, Clayton Moore. And you're like, who? The hell is Clayton? He's the Lone Ranger. He was the Fonz for an entire generation of kids Clayton Moore was a big star. Dead on this day in 1999. Where? Oh, by the way, Sam Peckinpah went to heaven, and the Lone Ranger. Okay, go ahead. We'll put him in heaven. I mean, look, it doesn't get more idealized Americana in the 1950s than the Lone Ranger. A little kid with his Tonto thing. You know, whatever. Cosplaying. What is that called? What's that called when you steal somebody's culture? Cultural appropriation. Okay. All right. Dead on this day in 2004. Here's another one. Jerry Orbach. Come on. Gung gung. Any Law and Order fans out there? Gung gung. Jerry Orbach. Was he first or second? Who was Paul Sorvino? So there's always, here's how Law and Order worked. So it was the first half hour was always the police investigation. The second half hour is the order or the law. I don't know, whatever. Second half hour was the trial. So in the first half hour, it's always two dudes. It's a team of detectives who are investigating. And for, I don't know, the entire run, wasn't it always old, grizzled guy who can't run up steps, and he's partnered with young dude who gets laid a lot, like young, handsome guy. That was always the thing. Now, I don't remember who Paul Sorvino was with. Was he with Benjamin Bratt? Or no, not Paul Sorvino, Jerry Orbach. It was he with, I don't know who he was with. Anyway, here's what I'm doing. I am putting Jerry Orbach in heaven. Jerry Orbach was cool. He always played mobsters. I like that guy. Paul Sorvino, he's the guy. He also played mobsters a lot. He was Paulie in the Goodfellas movies. Or Paulie? Was it Paulie? I don't know. He's got the sad eyes. He's got like the sad Paul Sorvino has like the sad puppy dog eyes, like. But anyway, moving on. That's not who's dead on this day. That's not Jerry Orbach. Dead on this day in 2004. Dead on this day in 2015. A guy that I got to hang out with, and I'm so happy that I got to hang out with this guy. He was such a gentleman. He was so against type. He was so the opposite of what you would think. Ladies and gentlemen, on this day, the world lost a true gentleman. And yes, who else could I be speaking of other than Lemmy? Yeah. Lemmy from Motorhead, man. Lemmy was awesome. Lemmy made me feel so good. Again, this all goes back to when we used to cover the Grammys, and we used to have these interview sessions where we would just interview everybody one after another. They'd come, they'd sit down. Lemmy came and sat down, and he did an interview, and we talked to him. And I wasn't a big Motorhead fan, but I could appreciate it. I know who he is and what his stature is, and the legend of Lemmy and all that kind of stuff. So I was into it. And he wasn't what one might expect. He was soft-spoken. He was an English gentleman. And he's wearing his cavalry hat. So the appearance there is like, oh my God, this is a scary-ass rock star. But he wasn't. And also, when I say an English gentleman, he wasn't like a stuck-up kind of English gentleman rock star, the kind that we've seen with David Bowie, the sophisticated, not like that. No, Lemmy was like a blue-collar English gentleman. He was, mate. He was like that. He was so cool. Here's what he did that made me feel really good. He told us to come to the Rainbow. The Rainbow was where Lemmy hung out. Lemmy literally lived in a condo behind the Rainbow up there in the Hollywood Hills. He would walk to the Rainbow every night. He had his own seat at the Rainbow. It was right next to a video poker game that he used to play. And tourists would come in from all around the world, and they would go to the Rainbow, and they would see Lemmy. And don't bother Lemmy. That was the rule. You don't talk to him. You leave Lemmy alone. Lemmy's like the house dog. You walk into a business and there's a dog there. Just leave the dog alone. She's fine. And people, for the most part, they were good with that. So Kelly and I were with Lemmy, and we were talking about how we were going to go this during the interview. Like, well, we don't know where to go to dinner tonight, blah, blah, blah. And he started selling us on the Rainbow. He's like, oh, come to the Rainbow, blah, blah, blah. So we went. I don't know if Kelly was all that into it, but we were in Hollywood and we were having a good time. And I knew the rock history of the Rainbow, so I was willing to go. I'm like, yeah, let's go. We go. So we got a big party group of people together for the radio station. And we went to the Rainbow, and we walk in. And there's a long line because it's Grammy week, and we don't have anywhere to sit. And then finally, everybody's standing in a corner, waiting to find a place to sit. And I look over, and I see Lemmy sitting where he sits. And he's sitting there at the bar in the Rainbow, and he's just playing his poker, and he's got his drink, and everybody's leaving him alone. And he looks, and he sees us, and I see him, and I'm looking at him because he told us to come here. And now look, we're in this big, giant line of people. We don't know what's going on. And he looks and he goes, "Oi," like this. Like he wasn't going to get up because there were like too many people they had to maneuver over. So I'm like, okay, I'll go talk to him. So I go over. I'm like, "Hey, Lemmy, how are you?" And he's like, "You made it." I'm like, "Yeah." And we're like, "Well, a little crowded. We might go somewhere else." He's like, "No. He got us a table." Lemmy got us a table. Lemmy goes, "Hold on." Like, and he told the bartender, "Use my friend, blah, blah, blah." He got us a table. And then we didn't leave. We didn't hang out with him or anything. He just stayed where he was. And then when we were leaving, he was still there. And I said, "Thank you, man. Thank you so much for the table." And he's like, "Oh, no problem." And that was it. And that's my recollection of Lemmy, who died on this day in 2016. So if you're asking me where that dude is going, that dude's going to heaven. That dude was just really nice. He was just a good dude. Didn't have to be either. These guys, a guy like Lemmy could be an asshole. He might think that that's the way to behave because that's what people expect of him. But no, he was in the other direction. Lemmy died on this day. We're going to spend a little time on this one too. Oh, I'm sorry. Lemmy died in 2015. It was on this day in 2016 that Debbie Reynolds died. Debbie Reynolds, massive star, just, massive star of a bygone era that we probably can't relate to, but she's Sandra Bullock. She's Meg Ryan, whatever you want to say that was her. Debbie Reynolds was there first. Debbie Reynolds is the mother of Carrie Fisher. Debbie Reynolds died on this day in 2016, one day after her daughter, Carrie Fisher, died. And entirely due to the death and the passing and the anxiety and the stress that was caused. Carrie Fisher, if you remember Princess Leia, we talked about her yesterday. We talked about her cool-ass HBO special, Wishful Drinking. She had died on an airplane. She was coming back from doing Star Wars stuff in London, and she was on an airplane. She had a cardiac incident. She died. Not right then. She took a couple of days. I believe the cardiac incident occurred on the 23rd of December. And she died yesterday on the 27th of December. So she went 4 days, and those 4 days apparently killed her mother. Man, I'm telling you, that is don't tell me that love isn't a tangible thing. And love didn't kill her, and stress and anxiety killed her. Yes, brought on by what? Brought on by the world, man. If you don't know how to handle your emotions, if you don't know how to manage them, if you don't, these things kill you. They cause ulcers. They cause heart attacks. They cause strokes. But go ahead. Keep making fun of therapy. Keep making fun of people actually going, how do I not have a stroke at 65? Well, you could look at the world this way instead of looking at the way you do, because the way you do is causing your blood pressure to go nuts. And also maybe stop listening to Hannity. I don't know. There's something. Maybe stop intentionally getting yourself all frustrated. Where are we at? So Debbie Reynolds, that's so weird. We're putting Debbie Reynolds. Okay, we got to put Debbie Reynolds in hell. Sorry. Here's why. There is thinking behind it. One, she's an actress, and that's kind of by default. And we put Carrie Fisher in hell yesterday. And if you think that I'm going to sit here and I'm going to separate for all eternity a mother who was so heartbroken by the passing of her daughter that she herself died the next day, well, you don't know the man who sits before you. Dead on this day in 2017, Rosemarie. Here's another big one. Now, Rosemarie, remember Buddy and Sally from the Dick Van Dyke Show? I don't know if you know her. If you're not 50, you might not know who Rosemarie is, but that's how I know Rosemarie, from reruns of the Dick Van Dyke Show that I watched in the 70s and 80s. Now, Rosemarie is a funny character because there is a nod to Rosemarie happening in modern television today. So Rosemarie, who was on the Dick Van Dyke Show, who we all know as Sally Rogers from that show, Rosemarie started her career as a child actor. She was named Baby Rosemarie. And Baby Rosemarie came out and she was a big star. She's a big star in vaudeville and then a big star in the early days of movies. She was Baby Rosemarie. But unfortunately, as she aged, she didn't change the act. So there was a situation where you had like a 30-year-old Rosemarie still touring as Baby Rosemarie. And she wore this big bow in her hair. And until her death, she's like 90 years old, you would see Rosemarie on a talk show and she would have the big Baby Rosemarie bow in her hair. It's just very weird. We're seeing that today in The Righteous Gemstones and the terrific character that Walton Goggins has created in Baby Billy. Baby Billy is a pastor who was famous as a little kid as Baby Billy. And now he's like 60 and he's still calling himself Baby Billy. Anyway, there you go. There's a nice little Rosemary tie-in. Rosemary, she's an actress. We know where she's going. Okay, so sometimes our templates get tested. This next one is going to test the template that says all football coaches go to hell. Ladies and gentlemen, John Madden died on this day in 2021, and I am putting him in heaven because who doesn't love John Madden? Who doesn't? Look, I love football. I don't believe that there is any single individual more important to the explosion of NFL football than John Madden. John Madden is the reason that football is every new generation. There's more football fans being chunked out. Why? Because John Madden, like 30 years ago, lent his name to a video game, and he is going to be the name associated with children becoming interested in football forever. I mean, until they change that, right? I mean, I guess it would be like in the 80s. I used to play a game called Newt Rockney Football, and it seemed a little bit old time because it was an original game. Well, they didn't have video. But what I mean is it was one of the original early video games, and they were deciding to, romanticize Newt Rockney. And even though that was a dude who hadn't played football in 60 years, we're going to see that with John Madden. John, you think they're just going to stop making Madden? Whatever. Madden 2050. No, it'll be around. John Madden is oh yeah, he was also a coach in The Voice, right? But that's for specific generations. That goes away. People who saw John Madden do play-by-play in games are all going to die off. You know what isn't going to die off? The kid who wants Madden 2070. So that name is going to be forever identified, and it's going to be forever romanticized as something having directly to do with the success and the ongoing success of football. I hope his family is making just money in posterity. Yeah, over that. I thought I said prostate. I don't know. It was weird. I'm tired. I've been up since like 4:00 this morning, 3:45 to be exact. Very proud of myself. John Madden, we're putting him in heaven, even though all football coaches go to hell. This next guy's going straight to hell. We'll do it preemptively. He's a politician. Harry Reid died in 2021. The one redeeming factor of Harry Reid is that he was pro-UFO. Yeah, he was. I like that about him. I like that he was like, he's a terrible, corrupt, dirty politician. They all are. And he's going to hell for that. But at least as far as those guys go, he was the one that was always like, hey, can we talk about these UFO things? Because I'm in Vegas and we got a lot going on here. That's where he was. He was a senator from Nevada. All right, that's going to do it. That's Q3 in the books, folks. We have done the erstwhile on this day. I brought you up to speed on everything that occurred on this day in history. I've also brought you up to speed on birthdays and deaths. And now it's time to go into everything that's trending, all the things that are happening. Now, folks, I have to get out of here early. I'm sorry. I know that sucks. Usually we like to do 2 hours. Probably going to do about another half hour here. I got to take E to the airport. Those of you who are, regulars here on the show, you know who E is. I got to take E to the airport. He's going off. He's going to jet set with his boy for New Year's Eve. They're going to have fun. I wish them well. Somebody needs to take him to the airport, and that falls to me because they're my boys, and I want them to have fun. And let's be honest, we're 2 blocks from Love Field. So it's not, it's not like when you normally have to take somebody to the airport, it's a thing, like everywhere else I've ever lived. It's been like, can you drive me to the airport? Sure, I can carve out 4.5 hours for you. It was that kind of deal. Not here. I'm like right there. Planes crush over my house at like 10,000 feet. Or less than that, probably 5,000. It's right in the flight path. So it's not a big imposition, but that's why we're going to end the show a little bit earlier today. Once again, a reminder, if you want to support this kind of talk radio, non-politicized, non-divisive, it's all just well-intended. We're going to get everybody caught up on what's happening in the world. If that's something that you're into, please drop a little something in the Venmo or the Cash App. Okay, let's get into it. Here we go. We start out with Israel because Israel is a place and there are things happening there. And every day I try and say something about that situation. Here's what I have for you today. They're afraid that the war is about. Now, they've been shaking this, stick for weeks now, but they're starting to think that, okay, it's going to get messy. It's going to spread into Palestine. It's going to spread into Iran. Here's what they're saying. Iranian-backed militants and Israeli forces traded fire across Israel's northern border, while Israel's leaders warned that time was running out for diplomatic efforts to diffuse tensions in the area, heightening fears that the war in Gaza could spill into a broader regional conflict, including in Lebanon and Syria. Well, they've been saying that from the beginning, and and then they stopped talking about it for a while, and now they're bringing it back because apparently the fighting is intensified on Israel's northern border, which is where they border with Lebanon. Again, I will say, if you want some real expert analysis of this story, plenty of places for you to find that. I'm just a dumb guy who's just going to tell you kind of what he knows, and I don't know a lot. Stocks are trending. Here's why stocks are trending. They're doing good. Rich people, go ahead, have yourself a night. For the rest of us, doesn't mean anything. Tell me about gas prices. Don't tell me stocks are doing good and that we're all supposed to just, be happy that the world is such a fabulous place. Don't tell me that. Tell me about the price of milk. Tell me about how much gas is costing. Tell me how much my property taxes are. Stocks are doing great. Good. I'm glad. Here's an interesting story. I wanted to touch on this. This isn't necessarily one of the top trending stories, but it is a story that's going around today that I wanted to talk about. This comes out of what is this? I saw it on Yahoo Finance, but dig this, guys. This is pretty cool. We do the show here from North Texas. I'm in Dallas, where most of us are in Dallas. Wall Street's seismic shift propels Dallas past Chicago and LA. Woo! Which means Dallas, this is interesting. I didn't even know this was happening here in Dallas. The number one financial center in America is New York City. It's always going to be New York City. It's in second place, has a long way to go. 2 and 3 were always Chicago and Los Angeles. I don't even know that Dallas had ever in any other lists been mentioned, but because of companies, big Wall Street banks specifically, who have relocated here to North Texas in the last couple of years, and you compound that with, are you guys aware of the giant Goldman Sachs complex that they're building down in Victory Plaza? Oh yeah, like corporate headquarters, like outside of New York, the Goldman Sachs Global going to be in Victory Plaza. Here's the story, and it's a good one. We should all be very excited about this because this is big money coming into this area, and if we establish ourselves as a big money area, that's going to be good for all of us. Dallas saw 3 of Wall Street's largest banks start on new campuses this year, cementing their bets on one of the fastest growing metros in one of the fastest growing states. The industry's rapid Texas expansion since the onset of the pandemic means the area now has more finance workers than Chicago or Los Angeles, and now trailing only New York. And it isn't just the major banks. Asset managers of all sizes have been looking to cash in on the influx of wealth and people moving from the coast to Dallas for cheaper housing and no state income tax. See, but that's going to have to change. See, here's the problem. That's going to have to change. You're going to have a state income tax when this state balloons to the size of California. Why? And no, it's not because you're going to have to pay for a bunch of dirty, poor people's indigent kids. No. It's going to be because there's going to be way more people on the roads, and there's going to be way more wear and tear, and we're going to need way more road work, and we're going to need way more roads. We're going to need wider roads. That's where, suddenly we're going to have a state income tax. So it's cool that everybody's coming down here to avoid state income tax, but once this place balloons, come on, man. I mean, Texas has been glorious for like the last 50 years. If you've lived in this part of the country for the last 50 years, it has been amazing. And you've probably in some sense been like, stay away. When I moved down here in 2001, it was like Oz. It was like the buildings were outlined in green. Everything was clean. Traffic moved. I thought it was funny. I thought it was funny when people were like, well, you're probably not going to enjoy Dallas traffic. Dallas traffic is wonderful. I mean, compared to like other places, compared to old cities. See, Dallas traffic isn't that bad because, Dallas is flat and open and there's room to spread out. Most of the cities that now have terrible traffic were established cities before there was a thing called roads, right? So all the roads have been sort of retrofitted for cities like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Chicago, because those cities existed before there were roads. Dallas grew up with the automobile. Dallas boomed in a part of America where roads were designed to be convenient. It's wonderful here. But that's going to change when all these people move up here. When we've got nothing but a megaplex remember when Plano stopped? It was just when I first moved down here, Plano stopped. Nobody lived in Frisco. The hell was Frisco? Stonebriar was there. Well, who's going to go all the way up there? Now look at it. We're going to have that urban exurbia. That's what it's the term for it. Exurbia. It's not suburbia. It's exurbia. We're going to have a megaplex of exurbia that's probably going to go all the way up to Sherman Denison, and then possibly even all the way up to the damn Choctaw Casino in Oklahoma. It's getting big. Right now, the smart money is on Dallas, Mayor Eric Johnson said at the groundbreaking ceremony in October for Goldman Sachs Group's 5,000 person campus in the trendy Victory Park neighborhood. So anyway, all good stuff for that. Look, this is all good stuff with the influx of money. That means investments. That means people are going to be able to build here and start things here and do things here. That was always a knock on a city like Dallas. The knock was you couldn't get anything done here because the guys who actually make the big decisions are in New York or Los Angeles, right? Not anymore. When the finance centers move here, that means the people who make the decisions are going to be here. So all those things are good for us in the short term. But in the long term, the good thing is that we got room. We got room to expand. So it will never be as bad as Hong Kong. Like you ever seen like how people there, or New York City for that matter, or Boston. I don't know if you've ever driven around Boston. You're literally driving on roads that were built in like the 1750s, and they're narrow and they're dangerous. It's scary as hell driving down streets in Boston. It seems like everybody's going to sideswipe you. Here we got nice. We got room. We got lanes. Story here breaking that I didn't know anything about, but apparently this morning while we were doing the show on The Freak, everybody started flipping out about this, and Lacey's blowing up the show, and oh my God. I mean, this is just, I guess, a pop culture hole that I have, because I didn't know anything about, I'd never heard the name Gypsy Rose Blanchard before, but apparently she's trending big today because Gypsy Rose Blanchard has been released from prison. Do you know the story here? I didn't know the story. I had to get myself up to speed. Apparently, this is a multi-port docu-series on, I don't know what it is, Netflix or something like that. But it's the story of this girl. This girl's name is Gypsy Rose Blanchard. She was raised by what appears to be a crazy woman. And this crazy woman convinced little Gypsy Rose, her entire life that she was disabled and that she was dying of cancer and that she wasn't going to be around long. And her mom ran all these scams, had Make-A-Wish Foundation involved. Everybody, that mom would take the kid to doctors and the doctors would go, she's fine. What are you talking about? She doesn't have cancer. She's a healthy little girl. And she spent her whole life in a wheelchair because her mom anyway, her mom was a lunatic. And at some point, old Gypsy Rose grew into a woman with some serious issues of her own, as one might imagine. And she met a boy online, as they often do these days. And I guess she convinced that boy to murder her mother. And the police were like, she's a murderer and all this kind of stuff. And then the documentary came out and everybody's like, wait a second. Well, she was, I think it was back in October where they decided to parole her or let her out or what, I'll read it to you. I'm just trying to go off what I basically ingested on this story over the past couple of hours, because I had never heard of this woman before. Maybe some of you have. I assume you have. What's the headline? The headline is Gypsy Rose Blanchard released from prison after serving time for mom's murder. See, the way they say the name, like the headline, Gypsy Rose Blanchard, they're putting her name out there because they think that I'm supposed to know who that is, and I don't. So now I feel like, I do a show every day, and I think I'm pretty up on news. Is this stupid people news? Is that what this is? Is that what this is? Is this like it's only news because it was a TV show and some people saw it, but it's not real news? Like if it wasn't a TV show, it would say woman released from prison after serving time for mom's murder, right? But people know. Okay, I get it. I understand. It's all marketing. All right, here's what it says. Gypsy Rose Blanchard, the Missouri woman sent to prison for the murder of her mother, Claudinia Dee Dee Blanchard, who allegedly abused her daughter and kept her sick for years. She was released on Thursday. She was released from the Chillicothe Correctional Center at 3:30 a.m. local time, according to the Missouri Department of Corrections. Gypsy Blanchard and her boyfriend, Nicholas Godejohn, were arrested in 2015 for the murder of Dee Dee Blanchard, who was found stabbed to death in her Springfield home. Gypsy Blanchard pled guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 10 years. The case generated national headlines and was even made into a streaming series on Hulu. There you go, Hulu. In 2019. Patricia Arquette won an Emmy for playing Dee Dee Blanchard in the series called The Act. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of any of this stuff. I might watch that. I love the dueling movies they made last year about the Texas woman who killed her neighbor with a hatchet. Candy? I love those. I would have watched this. I would have known about it when she was released today. Instead, I wasn't. Dee Dee Blanchard allegedly abused her daughter for years by convincing Gypsy and the public that she was extremely sick when she, in fact, was not. Gypsy Blanchard, who is now 32, this is the girl that was released from prison today for killing her mom, who basically ruined her life. Gypsy Blanchard, now 32, grew up believing she suffered from conditions including leukemia, muscular dystrophy, vision and hearing impairments, and seizures. She used a wheelchair, a feeding tube, and underwent multiple surgeries that were later deemed to have been unnecessary. Well, who are the doctors who are doing the surgeries? Can we please get an investigation into that? She doesn't need surgery, but there's a doctor willing to do surgery on a little girl. Let's find out who that doctor. Well, maybe I got to watch the documentary, right? Is that what you're all screaming about? You should be, because I'm an idiot. Sometimes I go off half-cocked. That's what happens with a stream of consciousness. I'm just talking. She used a wheelchair, a feeding tube, and underwent multiple surgeries that were later deemed to be unnecessary. Dee Dee Blanchard, the mom, Dee Dee Blanchard allegedly lied about Gypsy's age, making her appear younger on documents. Yeah, you can get more money if people are sad. A little girl makes you sadder. Gypsy Blanchard said that her mother kept her weak, isolated, and dependent on her, and said her mother became more controlling as she got older. She physically chained me to the bed and put bells on the doors and told anybody that I would probably trusted that I was going through a phase and to tell her if I was doing anything behind her back. Okay, I get it. Anyway, she's out. Sounds like she deserves to be out. Although, if I'm being honest, I'd keep an eye on her, because anybody that's been that horribly damaged, they're going to get into some stuff. Not again, not her fault. I mean, ultimately it's her fault, but she understands, or she doesn't understand the world the way the rest of us do, because she has a completely different origin story. And that's going to change you. That's going to make you weird. Probably not going to like the same TV shows as me. We're not going to have a lot of those kinds of things in common. Cher is in the news today. Cher is making some news. What is this about? Entertainer Cher files for conservatorship over her son Elijah Blue Allman. We talked about this a couple of months back. Elijah Blue Allman, who is the son, he's 47 years old. He's the 47-year-old son of Cher and Greg Allman. Greg Allman of the Allman Brothers. Greg Allman of the No, I'm No Angel. Remember that? He had a comeback hit. Is he still alive? Greg Allman alive or dead? Want to hear a creepy Greg Allman story? Okay, so in the 1990s, why are we doing this? Because it's a stream of consciousness. Okay, creepy Greg Allman story. Greg Allman, in the 1990s, there was a porn star named Savannah. She was a very big porn star. If you were like a Gen X boy, you know who Savannah was. College kids had posters of her, in their dorm rooms. Savannah was big. I remember thinking that Savannah was the prettiest porn star I'd ever seen in my life. Porn stars weren't supposed to look like that. They weren't supposed to be pretty. Around about 1989, 1990, when you saw a porn star, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, she's been through some things. She first of all, she hasn't had a good hair and color job in like 10 years. Her hair is awful. It was always, I guess what I'm saying is, like, that era of porn star, you were limited to girls who were willing to do that. And not a lot of girls were. And then all of a sudden, the 90s, everything goes to video, and suddenly there's all this money to be made. And we find out that, hey, there's a bigger selection. And I remember Savannah being like the first where we were all like, all the guys were like, wait, what? Wait, she doesn't whoa, she doesn't need to do this. That's the thing that you used to say when you saw the really attractive porn stars. She doesn't need to do this. Couldn't she just marry a really successful accountant or something? I mean, isn't there a dentist out there that would be totally willing to marry her? Anyway, that was the change in the porn industry. So where did Savannah come from? Well, Savannah came from Fort Worth, Texas. Savannah was 15 years old when Greg Ullman rolled into town with his tour bus and met a young 15-year-old groupie named Savannah. Well, Savannah got on Greg Ullman's bus and she ain't never went back. And that's how she got into porn. Yeah, that's I'm not gonna give you more details. I don't really know that there are, but that's her origin story. She's a 15-year-old girl from Fort Worth, Texas, who went and saw a Greg Ullman concert. Greg Ullman saw her and went, "Hey, you should get on the bus and live with me forever now." And he took her out to LA and he dumped her. And then she was out in LA with absolutely nothing. And somebody said, "Hey, you should do porn." And that's how she got started. Now, why are we talking about Greg Ullman? Because his son, Elijah Blue Ullman, his son and Cher's son, they were married briefly. He's got some problems. He's got some mental issues. He's got a whole bunch of money. He is like heir to the Ullman fortune and the Cher fortune. He's got some money. So Cher's freaking out because he's a drug addict and he's a head case. And he's apparently squandering all of, the money that is being given to him. He's being given money to live a very comfortable life there in New York City. And apparently he's just blown it all on drugs and all that. So Cher has, there was a rumor a couple of months back. We talked about the story that Cher had supposedly hired a bunch of people to kidnap him because Cher had felt that the woman he was living with was his wife, although I think he's divorced now. The woman that he was living with, Cher believed was holding some bad undue influence. And so she hired a bunch of those dudes to go kick in his door and kidnap him. You know the way families do from time to time? We used to see that in the 80s. Don't get on drugs because your mom will hire a strike team to rip you out of your bedroom, take you to some camp. So that's what Cher tried to do, except he's 47, and you can't do that with a 47-year-old man. At that point, you risk a gun battle, and I think it is just straight up kidnapping when it's a 47-year-old man. But so she tried to do that, and she made a lot of heat. But now she's actually filing the paperwork and trying to do it officially. Cher is trying to take control of her son's life because, well, first of all, what mom wouldn't want to do that? And for many of us, we'd probably be in better hands. Certainly Elijah Blue Ullman is one of those. So Cher has filed a conservatorship over her son, her 47-year-old son. No word on what her other son Chastity has to say about this, but we will keep an ear to the tracks. Okay, why isn't this working? All right, so we got an Alzheimer's study. They got a new Alzheimer's study out there, okay? So you worried about the Alzheimer's? I am. I'll tell you, every time I forget the name of a movie or a dude who's in a movie or whatever, I go, here we go. The Alzheimer's roller coaster. I just bought my ticket. Seriously, I panic about all that stuff. I don't panic. I'm just aware of it. There's a difference between panic. I'm like, okay, I guess this. Every time I have a new twinge, every time like I feel something different, I'm like, here we go. Because we're at that age. But anyway, new Alzheimer's study says that if you get 4,000 steps a day, you greatly reduce your risk of Alzheimer's. 4,000 steps a day. So I used to try and do the 10,000 steps a day. You know this? Like some Japanese dude like 30 years ago went, 10,000 steps a day will get you in shape. So I did the 10,000 steps a day. I did 10,000 steps a day for the better part of the year. And you know what I did? I got in shape. It was like really great. My cardio was awesome. Started out with steps, then it started jogging, then it became running, and it was awesome. 10,000 steps a day. And I lost weight. You know why? Because 10,000 steps a day is 5 miles. Yeah, that's what they say. Wait, is it 5 or is it 2? Somebody do the math. Whatever. I think it's 5. It's an absurd amount. It's 5 miles. It is. 10,000 steps is 5 miles, or just under or just over. It's easy. Everybody, you hear these people who are the step counters and they're like, oh, I get my 10,000 steps. It's so easy. I got my 10,000 by 3 o'clock. You walked 5 miles before 3 o'clock in the, I am calling BS. And here's why. Because I tried to do 10,000 steps and I did. And many days, you stop at 7 or whatever. But I tried to do the 10,000 steps. Most days I accomplished it. It's insanely hard. It is. You find yourself just doing steps for stupid reasons, which I guess is the point, that you're doing exercise that you wouldn't normally do. But it's like, oh, I got to walk to the garage. So I'll walk to the garage and then I'll stop halfway and I'll go back all the way up. And I'm like, I'm going to start my walk to the garage again because I'm just like stacking steps. It was insane. I didn't stand still. I paced back and forth, and it's addictive because you have it on your phone. You've got a step counter on your phone. You're looking at the numbers rise. It's crazy. They say if you get 4,000 steps a day, if you start doing it now, 4,000, what's that? Just under 2 miles, something like that. So 1.75 miles, whatever, mile and a half a day. Mile and a half is nothing. You can do a mile and a half in it. A mile and a half is nothing. It really is. And that's funny because back in high school, I remember once a year we had to do a mile and a half. It was part of our physical education training. And there was like an amount of time and you had to do a mile and a half in that amount of time. And we used to dread that. Used to be like, oh God, I've got to do the mile and a half. It's easy now. Mile and a half is actually easy. That's not difficult at all. I was just a lazy, dumb kid. We used to walk and talk and tell jokes. That was always fun. Ain't nobody, and me and none of my friends were trying to break any mile and a half record to get some gym credit. We're gonna make sure that we're under the time needed, and it was right there on the scoreboard. We knew, it was clocking down, so we would just walk. Mile and a half ain't bad. 4,000, you know what? 4,000 steps a day. If you told me get 4,000 steps a day, I would do that every day and I would do it gladly. But the 10,000 steps is insane. The 10,000 steps is the 4,000 steps plus another 4,000 steps plus another 2,000 steps. Yeah, thank you, folks. I can do math. I can do remedial math on the fly, too. Tell me you weren't impressed. Oh my God, it's 1:11. Okay, we got to move on. All right, what else do we got? California waves. There's some gigantic waves. If you're a surfer, you're probably not. But if you were, giant waves happening there in California this weekend. Robots, you know me. I believe that the robots are not our friends. The robots, we did a story yesterday about a robot that was killing people. Just slaughtered an entire floor of workers at the Tesla plant down there in Austin. That might not be the exact truth of that story, but a robot did hurt somebody at the Tesla Austin plant. We talked about that yesterday. Today, I bring you a story of robots patrolling parking garages in Denver. Denver Police Department or the city of Denver, I don't know, doesn't matter. They have invested in these rolling robots that, here's what they do. Here's what they say they do. Okay, so these robots they're like Roombas, but they're big. They're like trash cans, but they basically do the same thing as Roombas. They just roll around. And if you are loitering in a parking garage, right? Like if you're there for too long, more than a certain amount of time, the robot will roll up on you. Not right on you, but close enough that it's weird. You're like, oh, geez, we got the attention of the robot. And it's not going to destroy you with a laser or anything yet. I think we're probably a couple of years off from that being an option. Right now, what the robot will do is if you're talking and you're loitering for too long, the robot will then call an actual human security guard. And then that dude will come down. And that's how the Denver City Council got this thing passed with robots. Well, they're going to have to call a human. All right, at some point, we're going to eliminate the human. That robot ain't going to have to call anybody. That robot is going to be able to detain you. That's where we're heading. Denver, the cutting edge of robot parking enforcement. Let's see here. We'll do this. This will be fun. All right. So I got two lists here. You know how we like our lists. These are things that we will run down. We're going to wrap up the show here in a second. I appreciate you. If you can tip the show, tip the show. That's how we keep doing it. We're looking for a producer for tomorrow. Have at it. Cash App and Venmo right there. I'll leave it up. How about the worst traffic cities in America? I was just talking about this. I don't know why I was talking about it. Oh, I was talking about it because traffic in Dallas is about to get really bad. Everybody's moving here. I know we think it's bad now, and I will tell you something. It is legitimately bad on the tollway northbound right around the Galleria every single day, every single moment of every day. That is a bad place. There's also, the high five is not a great place to be. And I'm certain that as we move out towards the mid cities, we can find other examples where it is just a mix master from hell. But Dallas is not a bad traffic city. It really isn't. If it's the only city that you've ever driven in, then yeah, it sucks because traffic is bad. Traffic is always bad. But to what degree? Number 15, these are the worst traffic cities in America. Number 15 is where we'll start. Denver, Colorado. They say a lot of their traffic issues are weather-related and geography. A lot of hills, a lot of ice, a lot of accidents caused by, ice and snow. Number 15 is Denver, Colorado. That is the 15th worst traffic in America. Number 14, Washington, D.C. Yeah, I can see this because this is a stupid city and everything is coming towards one place, the central DC area and spanning out. But that's still not that bad. Number 13, worst city in America for traffic. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to our hometown, Dallas, Texas. In a single year, the average driver in Texas will lose 44 hours. 44 hours in a single year spent for the average driver in Texas. 44 hours spent in traffic. Number 13, Dallas, Texas has the 13th worst traffic in America. Let me see. Number 12 is Stamford, Connecticut. Nobody cares. That's got to be New York related. Number 11 is Portland, Oregon. Nobody cares. That's got to be, I don't know, when your car is powered by French fry juice, it might break down and cause problems. That's what I'm going with. Number 10, here we go. The top 10 worst traffic places in America. Number 10 is Atlanta, Georgia. I can see it. I've never been, but I imagine, Number 9 is Houston, Texas. Yeah, I've been stuck in Houston traffic, trying to get out of Houston, but I've been stuck in Houston traffic. Houston traffic is stupid. That's the 9th worst place in America for traffic. You wouldn't know this from watching your late night talk shows. We'd always been led to believe that Los Angeles had the worst traffic. Nope, Los Angeles is number 8. Los Angeles traffic comes in at number 8. Worse traffic than Los Angeles? Can I interest you in one of the most overrated cities in America? Oh, that's right. I said it. Most overrated city in America. What's he about to say? What city is Pugs about to say? What city does Pugs think is the most overrated city in America? New Orleans. New Orleans is number 7. Look, I have compassion for them. They've been through a lot 20 years ago. Maybe it's time to clean it up. I don't know. Just a suggestion. God, that's a dirty city. New Orleans is number 7 as far as worst traffic in America. Number 6 is San Francisco. I can see that. They seem to be kind of secluded, right? Isn't San Francisco kind of a peninsula? And isn't there bridges? Number 5, worst traffic in America. How about Miami, Florida? Yeah, but you're in a convertible and it's sunny and there's a gorgeous supermodel and a Ferrari next to you. And then you end up staying at the same motel and you see her out there swimming naked. And oh, wait, now I'm just talking about National Lampoon's Vacation. It's the only time I've been to Miami. So I'm on vacation. Number 4, worst traffic in America. Boston, Massachusetts. I was talking about Boston. Boston traffic sucks. Okay, I'm good. I'm glad that they got it as number 4. Boston traffic sucks. Those streets are not built for cars. My God. They're built for carriages and, lantern people. I don't know. What is a lantern person? I don't know. All right, let's keep going. How about this? Number 3, worst traffic in America, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yeah, right. How about this one? Number 2, worst traffic. All right, so I'm going to stop you right here because we're in the top 3. And I grew up in Chicago, and I'm a person who took mass transit because Chicago traffic is absurd. So we're already in the top 3. We haven't seen my hometown yet, so I'm starting to. Yeah. All right. Number 3 is Philadelphia. Number 2 is New York City. Could Chicago not even be in the top 15? That would be cool. I don't think that's possible. What is the number 1? Las Vegas. Las Vegas traffic is terrible. All right. Number 2, worst traffic in America is New York City. Number 1 is, there we go. It's Chicago. Wow. Really? Really? Okay, so in Dallas, just to give you an example, we talked about the average driver. How much time do they lose over the course of 1 year being stuck in traffic? In Dallas, that number was 44 hours. The average driver in Dallas will lose 44 hours of their year sitting in traffic. Chicago, which is number 1, Dallas is number 13. Chicago, which is number 1, worst traffic. Not something you want to be number 1 in, idiots. Maybe fix something, huh? Maybe don't do construction in January because, it's already tough sledding, no pun intended. So 44 hours lost, the average Dallas driver at number 13 on the list of the worst traffic cities. Number 1 is Chicago, 104 hours. 104 hours a year are lost. I used to commute all the time and it absolutely sucked. But, I very quickly, after commuting for a while, started taking the train. Loved the train. hated the idea of the train, then got on the train and started taking the train every day. There was a bar car. You could have a beer. You get a train, you buy a beer, you sit down. I mean, this was before laptops and stuff. So you read the paper. Number one, there you go. All right, there you have it. That is the 2023 worst cities in America for traffic. How about this one? Here's a new one, fun cities. Now, this one we'll do. This is the last one we'll do, and then I'm going to sign off for the day. But you can catch me tomorrow morning. I'll be filling in. It's my final day on The Freak. We got a nutty show happening tomorrow. A lot of people filtering in and out. I don't know. I got nothing planned. We're just going to free ball it. It'll be fun. It'll be a crazy Friday. Last show. Burn the place down. Why not? This is a list here of the most fun city in America. I may, in fact, actually do this tomorrow on the air because I'd like to do this with the cast of characters that I'm assembling tomorrow to get their takes on some of these cities because I do imagine it will be enjoyable. But I'll share it with you guys first. All right. So what is this now? The most fun city. Yeah, that's stupid. Where do we got to go? We got to start at 15, right? Hold on. Should we start? Let's start at 15. 15 is where we started with the other one, right? I think 15 is a nice sweet spot. You know why? Because the top 10, when you hear a top 10 list, aren't you always wondering, well, what was 11? Because if you're dissatisfied with the top 10, you're wondering if the one you wanted to see there was close. So I don't like to just give you a top 10. At 15 is where I think we draw the line. Deal? Is that fair? Moving forward with these crazy, the top 100 things of Thingdom. You know, we'll start at 15. We don't have to do all of that. All right, here we go. 15 most fun cities in America. Coming in at number 15, here's a city that I've been to that I've had fun in. Denver, Colorado. No complaints about Denver, Colorado. No complaints. You ever been? It's cool. It's a cool place. It looks cool. It smells cool. It is cool. I mean, literally, the temperature there, it's not overly hot. It's very pleasant. Denver, Colorado, number 15. Their total score is 48.48. They get a 17 for entertainment and recreation and an 11 for nightlife and parties. I don't know what any of this means. So we're not going to, that's the last time we're going to break down into those numbers because I have no idea how they correlate to the ranking here. But the number 15 most fun city in America comes in Denver, Colorado. Number 14 most fun city in America, Portland, Oregon. Just a little bit more fun than, yeah, they have fun there. Now, look, Portland, I've never been to Portland, but I have a friend who lived in Portland, and he was like, dude, Portland is so much fun. There is so much crazy. Portland is like Austin. It's like, it's the same kind of thing. Portland, Oregon, number 14, most fun city in America. Let's see, number 13, the unlucky 13 is Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Yeah, and I'm just going to ignore all the Floridas. Tampa is number 12. Again, just ignore the Floridas. We know Florida's fun. You go there, you have fun. We don't need to talk about it. Oh, here's some bullshit. Here, this I do not agree with. This is one of the worst cities in America. This is a city. I don't know why it exists. I hate this city. I've been in this city 3 times. I have no interest in going back. This is, of all the cities in this state that I've been to, this is the fifth ranked city. And this stupid list is saying that Cincinnati, Ohio is the number 11th most fun city in America. What do they have to say? I got to see what they say. What is their reason here? There's a little blurb. It says this river-adjacent city is home to the Bengals and the Reds. Yeah, a lot of fun being a Bengals and Reds fan, huh? Let's see here. Cincinnati's, okay, stop it. Somebody who's involved in the writing of this article for Travel and Leisure. Somebody involved in the writing of this article lives in Cincinnati or is from Cincinnati or wants to, be lame. Number 10, here we go. My kind of town. My hometown of Chicago breaks the top 10. Number 10, Chicago, Illinois, most fun city in America. Number 9, New York. Are you intrigued as to what 876-54321 is? Because if New York is number 9, really? New York. So Chicago is the 10th most fun city. New York is the 9th most fun city. I've had some fun in New York. I love New York. I want to live in New York. I'm too old now, or actually maybe I'm not. Old is just an idea. But I've always sort of loved the saying that says everybody should live in California just so long that it doesn't make you soft, and everybody should live in New York just so long that it doesn't make you hard. I always thought that was kind of interesting because I love both of those places. I've traveled to both of those places, and I've been like, I could live here. This would be totally cool. Oh, could I live in a house in the Hollywood Hills? Hell yeah. Could I live, in trying to think of where. Could I live in Manhattan? Oh, hell yeah. I mean, could I? No, because I'm broke as hell. but I mean, I could. Like, could I be happy in those places? Absolutely. Number 10, most fun city in America is Chicago. Number 9 is New York. Okay, moving on. Number 8 is Honolulu, Hawaii. No, thank you. That's gonna be a hard pass. Two things working against Hawaii for me. 1, too far. 2, too much beach. Too much beach. Too much about the beach. So what else is there to do? Well, there's a beach. I don't want to go to the beach. What else is there to do? You sit by the beach. I don't want to go to the beach. What else can I do in Hawaii? Parasail? I don't want a parasail. I don't want a parasail. I'm not interested in that. Just direct me to an air-conditioned hotel bar. I'll be there. We'll go out and have a nice dinner when you guys are done with your beach activities. That's the guy that I would be if I went to Hawaii with you. You don't want to go to Hawaii with that guy. So let's go to Mexico instead. Trust me. I know it's also beach related, but there's other things you can do. If you're willing to take a few risks, you can have a real good time in Mexico. Number 7, I concur right here. I love this city. This is another one. This is one of my top 5 most fun cities in America, without a doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, Austin, Texas. I love Austin. Number 7 on your list of most fun cities in America. Certainly the most fun city in Texas. That's what I think. You know what I love about Austin? I love that I get to leave it. I love that I get to go home after, vomiting in some dumpster behind a bar on 6th Street whose name I'll never remember. Number 6, most fun city in America. Here's a fun city. San Francisco is a fun city. I stayed in San Francisco. I was there for 4 days a couple of years back. And it was at a time when I was doing my running. And I remember thinking that I'm going to wake up in the hotel and I'm going to go for a good run. I'm going to be good about my runs. San Francisco is not a city for runners. Oh my God, you guys. Yeah, I know the hills, right? So what was I thinking? I don't know. I guess I didn't think the hills could be that hilly. I thought, well, sure, hills, but I can still. No, it is all hills. If you try and go jogging in San Francisco, no, thank you. I almost killed myself. Let's see. Number 5, the number 5 most fun city in America. And this is some bullshit. But I know that a lot of you people agree. And I know that I'm in a minority here. And that's okay. Number 5 is New Orleans. New Orleans is number 5 most fun city in America. I know that that's what they say. Number 4, Atlanta, Georgia. I've never been to Atlanta. No, I've never been to Atlanta. No, I've been to the Atlanta airport, but that doesn't count, right? We don't count that. Now, I don't know. Is Atlanta fun? Maybe. Who knows? Number 3, most fun city in America. Miami, Florida. Yeah, man. Miami is fun. But again, is it fun if you're broke? I don't know. Miami's fun if you got money. Miami is a party city. There's always something going on. South Beach is awesome. South Beach on a Friday night or a Saturday night, especially in the off season when it's not just crazy stupid packed, maybe in March, maybe when it's not super hot, but it might have been 80 during the day, might have been 85 or whatever. It's just, I don't know. I like Miami. Go hang out with Vanilla Ice. He had a bike shop down there. That's why I was in Miami once. First time I went to Miami, I was down there to go harass Vanilla Ice at his bike shop for a radio show. Number 2, most fun city in America. This is unfair. They're going with Orlando, Florida. That's unfair. It should be, you know what? And I'm guessing number 1 what I think it is. Of course it is. Las Vegas, Nevada is number 1. This list should have been the most fun cities in America that aren't specifically designed to be the most fun city in America. The only thing we'll take from this is that Orlando should feel bad that they took second place to Las Vegas, because Orlando just wants to beat Las Vegas. All right, there you have it, gang. That's it. Those are the most fun cities in America. I got nothing else for you. I got to take E to the airport. I gotta figure out what's going on with my life. I got so much to do today. I gotta put tomorrow's morning show together. I gotta figure out what I'm doing with my kid. I gotta clean. I gotta do laundry. In other words, I got stuff to do. All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow at noon for more of the High Noon Rant. Stream of consciousness, me for 2 hours, and today was like an hour and a half, just blabbity. And then tomorrow morning, join me tomorrow morning. So we 6 to 10 on 97.1 The Freak here in Dallas, Fort Worth. We're sitting in for the downbeat. It's our last day. Paul Varghese is going to be with me. The great Paul Varghese is going to be hanging out with me. What else do I need to mention? I think that's it. And I think that this has been a pretty successful stream of consciousness. And now I'm going to shut up. So this is the last thing that I'm going to say.